Yo, 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 it's Cublo back with another weekly recap video. So this week we're going to be going through the trades that we took for the week. Definitely a great week, but it didn't start off that way. We definitely turned it around and caught some big wins to maximize for the week, and it was definitely, a great week in the markets. So for the beginning of the week, we'll definitely start. We'll definitely start here. So we started to look at EA. We were looking for it to hit the support area down here for this trade, and we started to see that we were getting that downward momentum that we were looking for. So we put a sell stop here. It looks like we did end up getting activated eventually, but we were looking at GJ as well, and we executed on the 1 minute. We did have a higher time frame POI interest area that wasn't hit yet, and we were currently in a 1 hour POI here as well. So we were in between point of interest, which is like a very 50 to 50, type of trade, when it comes to certain pairs. And it could, definitely start to go in your favor and then totally turn around. So in the beginning, it was looking good. We started to still get those closures and those breaker structures downward. And it was definitely, a great trade to be in the beginning. We eventually did start to see a little bit of a push up, but just thinking that, price just was coming up to kind of just breathe a little bit and confirm price action for us. I did end up seeing this and trying to attempting to put like a second position so we can capitalize on that. But we did get a higher time frame confirmation for the sell back to Euro AUD. We did end up getting that push up, and we end up getting that activation at our sell stop. Which when it did this push up, we weren't technically in it yet. So that was definitely, good that we weren't in it at that time because we definitely started to get that push. We were also analyzing Euro USD as we were looking for Euro USD to kind of push up upon this resistance here. And price, we just wanted to wait a little bit longer because I did see that price was possibly going to come and fill this area a bit since we had this big down candle before this up move. I felt like price was definitely going to possibly come into the 50% of the area before it made the move. So I definitely let the chat know I was going to wait for it to come down just a little bit before I decided to uh, make certain moves on this pair. Um, so we created liquidity on a 15 minute on Euro JPY, and we were just hoping that it did drop because we were possibly going to get stopped out because of the way that it created this liquidity here. So once it created this liquidity here, it activated our second position. It created this liquidity here, which it's never really a good sign when you're in a pair and it starts to create momentum liquidity, which I wouldn't really call it momentum liquidity, but it creates liquidity and footprints in the market in which it has to capture sometimes before it ends up going up. So the POI at the top, creating liquidity at the top that it may come for and attempt to take us out was definitely two signs that I was just like, this may not be a good position for us to be in. So I was definitely letting the chat know. I just let them know I can't lie. I don't like how it looks, but we're going to risk it for the biscuit. So, we're just going to risk it, because of the fact, we were just already in the trade. And also, um, we had confirmation as far as certain signals that we were going to continue to sell. But eventually we did end up getting that push up and then it came down a bit, which, kinda, I was still in the middle because we did end up getting some confirmations as far as breaker structure on the 30 minute that let us know that we're possibly not going to be continuing to go in that direction. So at that time, I did let them know to cut EJ because it was just not looking very favorable. And it looks like, we got an opposite cross on the 30 minute. So I did let them know to cut that trade as price was looking to possibly go a whole nother direction than we intended. Um, But on live calls, this is things that we were analyzing on our live call. So if you missed the live call, we ended up getting into EU, and we ended up finding a better entry on EJ due to the massive drawdown EU on EU, putting me. I had to cut it, and I'm currently looking for a better entry on EJ. We're currently in it, but getting a pullback right now. So I did feel like I got a better entry on EJ after cutting that trade. So we end up getting another sell confirmation. And then we end up getting this break. And then I ended up, executing a position right here. And then we ended up, getting that regression down. But then I saw that price may come back up into this area once again to breathe and try to see, if we can capitalize off it again because we're continuing to get those breaker structures. EU, we definitely had a little bit of liquidity uh, here on this one that we created. But I definitely was possibly confident that we were gonna, go in that upward direction. But the one thing that I was definitely concerned about was this POI and this 50% you see at the bottom, and we just hadn't came to those areas yet. So price didn't really like mature in the way that we, wanted to. And then EA unfortunately did end up going crazy, ended up, going in our favor. And we just weren't able to capitalize on it the way we wanted to because we had to cut it. I did end up entering really two good positions, but I had to be very transparent with the chat and let them know that at that time, since we held EU through market close and open, spread had been widened. So at this red dotted line you see at the bottom, that's where price is, and the red dotted line you see at the top, not where our entries are, not the dashes, not the two dash lines right here, but the dotted line you see all the way up the top of here. That's exactly where spread was. So that's why you see the fact that we're in a sell, but we're negative $12, and I think we were negative like 20 something dollars or something right here because price was here, but our spread was here. And when spread widens and thickens like that, it puts you in a position to where there's nothing you can do. You have to let price do what it's going to do to see if you are going to be able to hold this trade. And I just wasn't that confident in this trade. Obviously, with the POI, we hit the top, and now with this breakdown, it creating this upward liquidity up here, these two structures up here, boom and boom, it creating those two structures and my stop loss being up here. So if price were to even if it were to continue to sell and price were to just come up into this upward area right here and start to regress up just for a retracement to come lower, spread can then move with that price and push me out of the position, sometimes for even more than you anticipated for, or for the exact amount that you had your stop loss at your exact risk. But you never really know based off of price and how the broker is working and how the broker is going to charge you for staying in that position with the high spreads at that time. So yeah, we end up having to cut it again. And this is what I mean by spread price has dropped significantly on EJ. You can see that I'm still in the negative, even though my positions are all the way at the top. Red line below is price, and the red line above is where spread is at right now. And I talk about this in my risk management video, so go check that out on how spread works, and also in the Forex 101 video, I also talk about that as well. So if you want to learn a little bit more about spread, definitely go ahead and check out those two videos on my YouTube. Um, so going to cut EJ with the slightest pullback, we can be taken out without uh, taken out by spread without price even coming near our SL. Down 0 to 3 for the week. So this was definitely how the week started, with us being 0 and 3. And like I explained when I was talking to the chat, is that price, this red line here, doesn't even have to come to our SL in order for me to be stopped out. spread can move away from price as price continue to go up, and I can be taken out just as easily. So that was definitely a concern of mine. So we definitely cut that. But moving on to the next day, as traders, as individuals that continue to navigate the markets and study the markets, you just learn to shift your mindset to the next trade. You can't focus on the losses too much. Yes, you're supposed to learn from them because they're not really losses, they're lessons, but you have to understand that starting the week 0-3 would usually put a damper in the trading and the revenge trading and FOMO trading for the rest of the week for some individuals. Not an individual like me. When you become a professional trader, that's when you understand that those are things in the market and certain categories in the market and things that happen in the market that are out of your control. And you have to take that and take accountability for those lessons and make sure that you're taking accountability for those losses as well. They're not completely your fault, but also taking accountability for them, journaling them, because there's possibly ways that you could have navigated to prevent yourself from doing that. I even consider possibly even cutting my trades right when New York session ends because of that spread gap that I've seen. But to be honest, I haven't experienced that in the last I haven't experienced that in a long time, so that's what's kind of like got me geared towards still continuing to trade the way that I've been trading. Because there are certain moves that just don't play out in the session, and you have to wait a day or two for them to really play out, which is totally, fine with me. So yeah, definitely, if you're on a losing streak, if you're, losing trades, just make sure that you're shifting your mindset, refreshing your mindset, and moving on to the next set of trades. And that's like the most keen advice I can give to any individual that's starting trading, intermediate traders, and even your advanced traders. So looking at these two pairs, I did feel like GU may still have more upside to fill before it comes down all the way. Then and EU is perfect, but I'm going to wait for a lower time frame to break structure because it closed above. That means it's going to try to go up for a buy possibly. So we did get a push up on EU at a certain point, and we did break structure here. And it was definitely a little bit concerning. We were definitely going for a sell, and we had perfect liquidity down here to these areas. But we were still in this POI, that respected structure here. So it let me know that we just had to, just be patient and make sure that we wait for that lower break of structure in order to do what we needed to do for this pair in order to capitalize on it perfectly. And once we got that break instruction on a lower time frame, I definitely was okay with executing that position, which we did. And then GU was definitely a perfect position. We ended up getting some sell confirmations on the lower time frame. We already had hit the resistance for the week, so I was definitely looking for it to come near the support area and possibly even hold down all the way into support. Or, if we decided to close earlier, then, so be it. But we did end up taking these on our live call, and it was just a perfect, move. The week before we tried to wait for a price to kind of regress a bit and come up into these areas up here in order to get in. But this week I just had to really follow my confirmations, and if I got smaller time frame confirmations, and that's why this learning to also analyze from top to bottom and learning how the smaller time frame works and not getting lost in the sauce is really important because it's going to really help you understand when you should and shouldn't get into certain positions when it comes to even higher time frames, letting you know that it's okay to do so, but lower time frames, letting you know that you should be just a slightly bit more patient. And that's like the the defining factor in between a beginner trader and maybe an intermediate and advanced trader, learning the smaller time frame so you can get the gist of what every time frame is doing at every moment. And both ended up giving us a great push. We ended up getting a closure here on EU, which definitely left me confident to execute this position. As we said, we kept getting rejections to the upside. So I definitely was able to execute both of those positions. EU collected liquidity. Hopefully, we continue to get that push down that we're looking for. And usually after price rejects like this, it definitely kind of makes me a little bit nervous. But because we got higher time frame confirmations that we're going to continue to sell along with price, you can see the high here. We got a low here, a high here, and then made a low here, made another high here, but didn't close above. And then we made another low on a lower time frame right here, which let me know we were going to continue to sell down. So with that confirmation, I definitely ended up taking that position. We collected this liquidity, which sometimes price can definitely reverse from here as price created this downward liquidity right here once it came down, but I was confident and I just held the trade and just accepted my risk. And um, and for GU, we ended up, uh, I think going break even on it. So yeah, we just kept our regular risk. We were essentially gonna go break even on it, but I felt like price was gonna come back and probably go at our break even and continue to go. But yeah, reason why we held this, we got that wick there for the initial push down, and then I was thinking about going break even, but I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna set my risk on this one, because I wasn't risking that much, and I was really confident in the trade. And then EU ended up doing this beautiful move. So it was definitely a beautiful move. We ended up catching on EU. It wicked, made me nervous a bit, but just had to, accept my risk and just stay confident in the trade because I just saw that prices was going to continue to um, give downward momentum. And I just, I felt that and I knew that and I saw that in the structure. So I just continued to hold that trade. GU also was a beautiful trade. We got that wick down initially. It came up a bit, but then we still ended up regressing down. We added a second position under this candle right here after the push up because I did feel like it was possibly going to push up into this area and regress down. So we put another signal here, which once we got those two rejections, it activated us in for a second position, which was definitely great. And for EU, we ended up collecting it at 50 pips, which was definitely a great move for us for the week, especially coming off of three straight losses. So it was definitely a great day in the market the day after that. So for GU, we added that second position and we continued to see that downward momentum, which was really great. We did end up having to eventually close it, but we closed it at 86 pips, which was definitely a great move down. And I just enjoyed being in both of these trades for the week because they went exactly how we wanted to. We were able to add positions and capitalize more on the same positions that we're in, which is what you want to do as a trader. You want to capitalize on the positions that you're already in, so you're not spreading yourself too thin, trying to trade every different pair to try to make more moves. If you're already in a move and it's going in your direction, attempt to add positions. Of course, using risk management, but attempt to add more positions to that same position that you're currently already in. So after EGU ended up coming down and we ended up taking profits, it did regress a little bit, but we were attempting to take that continuation um, on GBP. We did end up cutting it in profit because we it just didn't really like give me uh, that satisfaction that it was going to continue to keep going in that direction, which, I was totally fine with because, we already had caught a really good move on it. At this point, we were just looking for it to kind of like hit support. So that's the reason why I was, really wanting to get into it again. And we had got certain confirmations. So I definitely wanted to get into it again, but I didn't want to chase the market and we already had a good week. So I ended up cutting it in profit, very small profit. It wasn't nothing crazy. But we definitely did cut it, and we cut it also due to news that was going to be coming into the market regarding that specific pair as well in the later part of the night. So we just didn't want to, stick around for that. So the next day, which was the first, which was Thursday, we ended up um, looking at Nas, and Nas was a very great move. I hadn't traded indices for a long time, but I kind of wanted to just try it out because I can, when you're a trader and you know market structure and you know exactly what you're doing on the charts, you can trade anything. You can trade stock, you can trade crypto, you can trade anything you would like to trade, as long as the chart is visible enough for you to do so. So when it comes to Nas, we did see that we got a big push up um, in the earlier parts of last week. It was definitely a big push up that we ended up seeing, and we were just looking for it to possibly come back and pull back just a bit, um, just for it to continue to buy, because on a daily time frame, I saw that it was going to continue to buy up, which this pair has been buying up for a long time now. But it has to breathe. Price has to come back. I would definitely say sales on Nas are like, I would kind of say like a 50-50 per se, because it's a pair that's continuously going up and up every calendar month, every year. So it's definitely something that you don't always want to do, is always be selling on Nas, but you got to take what the market give you and understand price action in order for you to know when to sell, when to get out, and also when to continue to buy those pullbacks that we ended up participating in this week. So we did get activated on this position on the 15 minute here. It whipped us in. It pushed up. I was in the negative at that time. Wasn't nervous at all. It just definitely, uh, just got me thinking like, okay, like we could possibly still see downside, but we do have all that higher liquidity on a daily, and 50% on daily as well. So once we did come into this area, we did see that price gave us another confirmation on the 15 minute. And eventually we did end up getting another confirmation, I believe, on a smaller time frame, which is the 5 minute. And it was just a beautiful sell. We ended up putting a second position. And here, when price started to move up, and which activated us in, which that's what you have to do in order to capitalize on the position you're already in, like I spoke of before. And I did let them know to go break even, because this was not promised, and this wasn't a trade that I saw like really going the long, long term. So that was the reason why, I let the chat know to go break even on it. But it was definitely a great trade to be in, and I really enjoyed being in that trade. This is what EU ended up doing. It ended up hitting our TP for about 80 pips or so, but we got out at like 50 something pips, and then we ended up doing like a small regression up into this imbalance area here, and then continuing to go down with the downward momentum, possibly hitting the support here. And we collected liquidity on the move that we were in, like I spoke of earlier. And it was just definitely a great move. I usually don't trade. This was all Thursday, but I usually don't trade on Fridays. But this week we had to, because I wanted to meet my goal and I wanted to withdraw in my live account. Um, some money, and I wanted to make sure that I let the chat know you can either do it both ways. You can do it the prop way, you can do it the live way. It does not matter. Trading all kind of coincides together. How you do it doesn't really matter, but they both have its benefits and its cons, and and its pros as well. But trading live is one of my favorite things to do, so I wanted to definitely, just throw some money in the live real quick, and we were able to definitely capitalize the latter parts of the week from Wednesday to Friday. And this was Friday's move. It was NFP, so we had to be very careful on how we went about going about these trades. But I did see that we got earlier around like 2, 3 a.m., we got a 30-minute confirmation that we were going to be breaking up. So around like this area, it broke up. And I was gonna get in there, but I was like, you know what? I was gonna get in here, but I was like, you know what? Let me wait for my hour confirmation, which, once we got that, I was definitely excited, letting us know we definitely were going to go upward in that position. So we did have to pull our risk ratio a bit up to activate this position a bit because of where price was. And once NFP kicked in, we got that slight wick. And man, I was like in it, because I was just like, man, like I cannot have NFP, take me out right now. Like, NFP is a time to capitalize off of great volatility, and I just didn't want to miss out on some great volatility, but we did get some push down. It did wick and it was staying consistent with this red MA right here. So I definitely was confident in it. Stuck with it. This happened while I was like away from the charts, but yeah, I ended up, having to not even look at it and just accepting my risk. And that's just something that you're gonna have to do as a trader, is just accept the risk, because it's just, it's your risk and you know how much you're willing to risk. And I was totally fine with risking whatever I did on this position. I didn't end up going to TP. We ended up closing close to the 50% area over here. So it definitely was a great move to be in. And I just, don't usually trade in a fee. But yeah, I definitely, saw that price was definitely playing a little bit. So I was like, it's playing too much in this area. I'm going to get out. So I let the chat know that I was getting out. And right after I did that, 2 hours later, you can see that this happened. So it hit the 50% area and it came right back down. If we were paying attention to that 50% area, we could have definitely sold. But we weren't paying attention at that time, and this was, the transparency check for our 100K account challenge. That we finished with a win rate of 60%, consistency rate of 29%, and I'm just letting everybody know to like, subscribe on our YouTube, and just continue to show support and hop on our live calls, because our live calls have so much knowledge, and you can ask me any questions you like. Again, this was our weekly recap. If you guys have any questions or concerns, definitely comment down below. You can like, subscribe on this video and any of our other videos. Like I said, you guys can definitely refer to our new support and resistance video, where I show you guys how to necessarily use support and resistance to your advantage when trading in the market. Again, I'm Hugo, and I'm out.